Hey, what's going on, y'all? Hope everyone's having a fabulous day. If you haven't gotten a chance to subscribe to this channel, please do so. I try to make a video on a regular basis, sometimes not so regular. Well, even more of a reason for you to subscribe. If you ring the notification bell when I drop a video, you'll be notified by YouTube. So I want to start off by saying I am not a financial advisor. This video is not for financial advice. You can use this for entertainment purposes only. Wink, wink. So when you get a chance to speak with a financial advisor, it's usually a 2-3 visit situation. And what they do is they go over your finances and they look at all your assets, all your liabilities that you have, and they try to come up with a financial plan. And they do this big spreadsheet. It's got a lot of pages to it, and sometimes it's some graphs, pie charts. Excuse me. And it could be very intimidating, and it could be very appealing to the eyes with the different colors and everything. But at the end of the day, I want you to understand something. A financial advisor, when getting into the financial world, personal financial world, one of the first licenses that they get is a life and health license. And so when they get their life and health license, one of the first products they pitch to you is life insurance. Right? So I said all that to say that the advice that's given in personal finance is usually biased. That financial advisor that's giving you advice, his bias is basically towards his family. He's trying to feed his family, and in order for him to feed his family, he has to sell you a product that he makes a commission on. See that big elaborate spreadsheets and that pamphlet that they give to you? They don't make any money by sitting down kneecap to kneecap with you and talking to you about personal finance. So it's in their best interest to sell you products so that they can feed their families. And so one of the questions that is often asked is, should a person pay off debts or should they invest in their retirement? And because most of the financial blogs out there are biased, you're never going to get a true answer and to why, right? They're always going to tell you to do whatever is in their best interest. But I want to bring it to you in a different perspective. The cost of money. Right? And that's the very first thing that I look at, and what type of debt it is, when I'm trying to determine if I'm going to pay off debt or invest in my retirement. Now, how you invest in your retirement is up to you. That's a video for another day. But just think retirement in itself. And understanding the cost of money. Now, in the financial world, there's something called opportunity cost. And basically what that is if I put my money in a CD, that's still going to cost me, because I could have put it in a vehicle, an investment vehicle that could have given me a higher rate of return. And the difference between those two rates is usually the cost of the money. So in every situation, opportunity cost is used to determine what investment vehicles you should put your money, right? And it's not always about investment or the opportunity cost. There's other factors. But when you're talking about, the stock market, let's just pick one of the investment vehicles out there. On average, you should be able to get a 6 to 8% return on your money. So if anything above that, if you're paying debt that has a higher interest rate of 6 to 8%, My personal advice is, and my personal opinion is that you should pay down that debt, because the cost is going to far outweigh your return, right? The return on investment. Now, there's two different types of debts that I talk about all the time. There is installment loans, and there is revolving lines of credit. Okay, now an installment loan is a loan where the payments are fixed, right? Your payments are not going to fluctuate, and you have a set term. It's going to be, let's say, $200 for 60 months, 5 years. That is going to be the term of the loan. And the payments, like I said, they're fixed. Once you're done paying off that balance, let's say you have a balance of $5,000 and you pay that balance off. Once that balance is paid completely off, you are divorced from that financial institution. Okay? That is an installment loan. Usually those loans are car loans, personal loans, mortgages. Those are considered installment loans. Now, the revolving line of credit, that is a payment that fluctuates on a monthly basis depending on the balance of the debt. Okay, those payments are going to fluctuate up and down. Now, many of you that have been watching this channel, you already know the difference between installment debt and revolving lines of credit. But I'm making this video for those that are just coming to this channel. So, revolving debts are like credit cards, lines of credit, right? If you have a home equity line of credit, those are revolving payments, right? And those are huge. One is because usually credit cards are going to usually be your highest interest rate. They can range anywhere from 13% to 24% interest rate. Now, if you have a credit card, one of the things that you always want to think about is that's a revolving debt, and if you allow that to get out of control, that's going to mess up your credit report, and it's going to prevent you from getting lending further down the road. So the cost of that money is going to have more of an effect on your personal financial situation than any other type of debt that you will incur. So if you're asking me, Kenny, should I pay off my credit cards or should I invest in my retirement? I'm always going to say pay off your revolving lines of credit first. If you have retirement, put that on pause and focus as much as you possibly can to pay off your revolving lines of credit. When you're talking about utilization rates, right? Utilization rates are huge in the personal financial situation, because let's say hypothetically you have a good credit report, right? And this has happened to somebody I know very recently. No collections, pay all your bills on time. All you did was you have no derogatories, no lates or anything. All you did was rack up a bunch of credit card debt. I know a gentleman that was once in the 800s, racked up a whole bunch of credit card debt, and now his credit score, well, he ended up fixing that situation, but his credit score ended up going down to 650. Now, most of you say, okay, well, that's a good credit score. 650 is still, you can still get loans with 650. Yes, but not all 650s are created equal. If you have a high utilization rate, I want you to understand some lending institutions have something called a bankruptcy score. Now, if your bankruptcy score is bad, there's a really good chance, regardless if you haven't, had any derogatories on your credit report or not, if you have a bad bankruptcy score, then it's going to be hard for you to get lending anyway. So not all 650s are created equal. So what happens is you have to really look at utilization rate as a key determinant on whether you pay off debt or if you are going to invest in your retirement. I made a video a couple of weeks ago talking about how the middle class is being squeezed down. And in that video, I talked about how you need to have all your money working as hard as possible for you. And in that video, I talked about how you have all these, multi-millionaire financial gurus trying to make decisions for people, or trying to give advice to the middle class. And it's not really feasible advice, because most of us don't have $350,000 to go put down on a 16-unit apartment building. And you get these people that will tell you things like, get a 16-unit apartment building, don't invest in a home. And they're coming from a space that is not really middle class, right? They're coming from a completely different space. They're coming from a space of wealth. And most of us that are in the middle class, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to retirement and get into a position in retirement where we're comfortable. And how do you do that? You see, when you think about retirement, right? And I apologize for jumping around, but I want to give you the whole picture, right? I don't like to leave you guys with still more questions. So when you think about the retirement situation, it was an experiment that was given to my generation, Generation X. And the reason why I say it's an experiment, because there is no evidence that shows that we have the ability to invest in any type of investment vehicle and provide a comfortable retirement for ourselves. It's never been done in history. Why would the government think that we would have the knowledge to invest in retirement vehicles and be comfortable, right? There is not anything, no instructions to this program or anything. There is nothing. Basically, when you get your job, there's somebody from the HR department that's going to talk to you about 401ks, and they're going to put down a sheet, and they're going to say, okay, where do you want to put your retirement? Let's say you do want to put money into a retirement account. And you look at your account, and you look. One of the things that most people do is they look at this sheet of paper and they say, okay, well, which one has the highest rate of return for the last 5 years? Last 5 to 10 years. And that's the investment vehicle that you pick. You don't know the fee structure. You don't know if it's a fund that assumed assets from another fund that portfolio has. You don't really know much about it. You're just looking at history data and trying to make the best investment decision that you possibly can. And the reason why I'm saying this is because there's really no education on this path to retirement. There's not very many people that talk about it. At least in the middle class, there are certain conversations that you just don't have. You don't talk about religion, and you don't talk about personal finance, right? Those are just, a couple of questions. And you don't talk about, it used to be, you don't talk about political affiliation. And now we're in a situation where we talk about politics, right? Everybody knows everybody's political affiliation. We know everybody's religion, because everybody's so upfront to, put their religion out. But one thing we still don't talk about is personal finance. And there is not very many people talking about it. Like, it's almost in a situation where you have a bunch of people in the middle class just winging retirement. We don't know how much we should really be putting towards retirement. We don't know which investments we should be putting in retirement. There's people out here that don't know the difference between a Roth 401k or a traditional 401k or traditional IRA versus a Roth IRA. And these are the things that I want to bring to the conversation, because we are winging life, our personal finances. And when you have people that are asking me, should they invest in retirement or should they pay off credit card debt, that lets you know that the financial structure has failed us, right? Because I'm a guy that's a truck driver. I have no financial degree. I have, I just went through a bankruptcy, 2 years ago, and yeah, granted, I'm in the personal financial world, and I read and I study, and I've dabbled in personal finance in my past, but the reality of it is, when you don't know like the bare basics of personal finance, these are questions that we need to have answered. And if I haven't answered it, I'm going to answer it like this. When you understand the cost of money, right? And you know that if you have an opportunity to pay down a credit card that has a 24% interest rate, or you can invest in your retirement that's going to give you an 8% return, I'm always going to say pay off your credit card debt. Now, if you're in a situation where, let's say, you're in a situation where you have credit card debt because you haven't been watching this channel, right? You haven't been watching this channel, and you just went out and you just, let's say hypothetically, you went and financed your wedding on your credit cards. And so now you got $10,000, $15,000 worth of credit card debt, and you're trying to figure out, how do you get from out under this debt? What do you do? Do I just focus on paying off this credit card debt? And here's what I would tell you. There's companies out here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put a couple of links in the description to companies where they will consolidate your debt for you, and turn your revolving debt into installment debt, right? Because what you don't want to do is have a bunch of credit card debt that is going to mess up your FICO score, right? So what you want to do is you want to take that debt and you want to turn your revolving debt into an installment loan. And my rule of thumb is, if it's going to take you over 6 months to pay it off, right, you want to make sure that you take that debt and turn it into installment loans, right? And that's the great thing about installment loans, is it's not going to mess up your FICO score as bad as revolving debt. Once you start getting above 30% utilization rate, you might as well have a collection on your credit report, especially if you're in the 700s, right? If you're in the 700s and you have a 30% utilization rate, chances are that's gonna take you all the way down to the low sixes, right? Low to mid sixes. And in some cases, you probably shouldn't go to fives. You'll probably be in the low sixes. And so if you think about it, it might be in your best interest to take that debt. Let's say you have a $10,000 credit card and you got $9,000 on your credit card and it's almost maxed out. What you want to do is you want to reach out to a company, and like I said, I'm going to have a couple of companies in the description, and you want to see if they can take that debt and turn it into some type of an installment loan. Some of these companies will pay that credit card debt directly. And basically what you're doing is you're doing what the wealthy do. What you're doing is you're restructuring your debt, right? If you remember Donald Trump in the 90s, right? If you remember the banks in 2008, Lehman Brothers, what's another one? Bear Stearns, AIG. What these companies did, they went out to alternative lending institutions and they borrowed money to take care of their debts, right? And we need to start thinking about our personal finances like these too big to fail type institutions, and we need to practice the same tactics that they use. right? And that's what I'm here to try and help you with, is to try and show you different things and different strategies that you can use to get you to the next level, right? And that's what we're trying to do. And we've been out here to fend for ourselves, and then we get these gurus that are multi-millionaires giving us advice like, go out, save your money, get $350,000 to put it down on a 16-unit apartment building. If that doesn't make your situation bleak, I don't know what will, because that's just not financial advice. Most of us have to learn how to make our money work as hard as as hard as it possibly can. Now, if that is not an option, something that I'm about to bring to your attention is going to probably ruffle a few feathers, and it's okay. That's what I'm here for. But I'm just trying to put other options on the table for you. And some of us have like that same situation. You have a $10,000 credit card. You got $9,000 on that credit card. If you have $9,000, usually you could take out 50% of your 401k, right? Let's say you have $18,000 in your 401k. You could take out a loan for $9,000 and pay off that credit card debt. Here's the great thing about doing a situation like that, right? And I'm going to talk about the pitfalls in a little bit, but here's the great thing. When you pay that back, you're paying that loan back to yourself, right? So you're going to still be making your payments to your 401k, but you're automatically making a built-in savings by doing that, right? You're going to save yourself a ton of interest, and any extra interest earned is going to you, right? And so that's something that you might want to think about. Now, the pitfalls are this, right? Now, if you take out a loan, hypothetically, with your financial institution, your 401k provider, if you take out a loan and you get terminated, you are going to incur fees and penalties for not paying that loan back. That loan is going to become due within a certain period of time from the time that you get terminated, right? So that can come back to bite you if you don't know all the rules and regulations of your 401k. So if it's something that you're thinking about doing, here's my advice, right? Is if that's something that you're thinking about doing, what you want to do is you want to talk to your 401k provider and get all the rules and ask them, if I get terminated, what is the downfall? If I don't pay my loan back within 5 years, what is the downfall, right? And you get all of the rules and regulations for borrowing from your 401k from your specific provider. Every provider is different, but borrowing from your 401k from that specific provider, they will give you all of the details to borrowing from your 401k. All right? Now, just understand that it could be a little bit risky by doing it that way, but that is something that you might want to think about. $9,000, most of us can't pay $9,000 off in 6 months. And with that $9,000, that high utilization rate, because you're sitting at a 90% utilization rate like that, you may not qualify for even some of the lending institutions that I was speaking of. They're going to look at your debt and say, well, you got a 90% utilization rate. We're not willing to take that risk because your bankruptcy rating, which is tied into your utilization rate, is too bad, right? So that's just another score that you have. You have your FICO scores and you have your bankruptcy score. And if you got to have a high utilization rate, you could pretty much guarantee that your bankruptcy rating is bad, all right? And that's something, if you guys never heard of the bankruptcy rating, you might want to Google it and take a look at it. But some lending institutions use it, not all of them. But that's just something that I learned with dealing with my brother. He applied for a loan and they started talking about the bankruptcy rating, and he called me up one day and I had to do some research along with him, and found out, hey, look, there's this thing called the bankruptcy rating. So I just want you guys to understand the whole entire picture. When you're talking about personal finance, it's not just one answer that's going to fit your situation. You have to look at everything on the table. There's something called a student loan debt crisis that we're in. Now, a lot of times what people will do is they'll try and use programs to get away from using, or uh, they try to use programs to get them away from their obligations, right? They don't want to pay this debt, and so they're trying to say, well, I don't have to pay it because you took advantage of me or what have you. Student loan debt is a little bit different, and the reason why I say it's a little different because the 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 interest on student loan debt is usually low, right? It's usually 3 to 4% that you can get your student loan debt at, and the payments aren't really going to kill you. So when you're looking at student loan debt, yeah, it might take you years to pay it off, but it's still something that you could do along with retirement, right? And I just want you guys to look at a situation like debt and understand there's several different ways that you can get from under your situation. You just have to get creative, and that's what wealthy people do. When you look at the wealthy, they make decisions completely different than what we do. When the middle class makes financial decisions, it's usually from a desperate situation. There's not much thought, and you're desperate, and you're just slinging mud to the wall, and you're just hoping something sticks. And that's not the way wealthy people make decisions when it comes to personal finance. And I hope that, with you guys listening to this video, it keeps you motivated looking at your personal financial situation. And I hope that by watching this video, you understand why it's really important to keep your utilization rate low. Because hopefully now you guys know about the bankruptcy rating. Even if you don't have any derogatories, if your utilization rate gets too high, you could still be getting declined for loans down the road. You could, be sitting there in Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and they decline you, and you're sitting there wondering, how could you decline me? I don't have any derogatories. I pay all my bills on time. I just got credit card debt. Well, that could be a reason to decline you for a loan, is your utilization rate is too high. Some people may call it debt to income ratio, but it's not your debt to income ratio. It just comes down to your utilization rate, right? Because you can afford the loan, but just something as small as your utilization rate can, get you disqualified for a loan. And that's why I make this channel, so that you guys can understand the whole picture. And when you guys are thinking about cost of money, just understand when you're thinking about doing these things, think about it from the aspect of what can I do to make my money work as hard as possible for me, right? And so if you have a credit card that's 22-23% interest, and you're still investing in your retirement, and you're carrying high balances on your credit cards, you have to find a creative way to get from underneath that revolving debt, because you're only going backwards. That is a situation that's just waiting to tear you apart. And if you are in that situation and you're looking out, you need somebody to talk to, and you want to reach out to somebody, you can email me, Kenny@CreditLiving.com. You can reach out to me. I usually, I have an email list that you can subscribe to, and I try and send out emails on a weekly basis. And hopefully this channel helps you get to the next level. I'm not going to keep this video too long. I wish everyone a blessed day. I'm going to catch you guys on the next one, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.